How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully it's having a lovely day. We have had a day, just one day, to really digest this Bengals heartbreaking loss to the Baltimore Ravens. Lots of reactions, lots of feelings, lots of emotions. You know, a lot of times we like to immediately put the scapegoat as the coaches. That's just how sports are. Always the coach's fault. Get rid of this guy, get rid of this guy, get rid of Zach Taylor. I mean, we can look back now and say Zach Taylor, honestly, and this might be unpopular at this moment still. But for me, I think I see it clearly now and say, I don't blame Zach Taylor at all for that. Zach Taylor called a perfect game up until the final drive of the football game. Remember, what we have wanted was aggressiveness out of our coaching staff. Zach Taylor was aggressive in the entire fourth quarter. Bengals are up 2 scores, still slinging it. And they had to, because they didn't, they would have lost. But Zach Taylor was aggressive. Old days, we would have been conservative. Marvin would have been happy to be good to throw that football back to the defense, right? The reason the Bengals lost the game was because, unfortunately, Chase didn't beat his man inside. Marlon Humphrey made an excellent play. When they needed a big play, he made it. That interception, there was only 3 minutes left in the game. Bengals were aggressive. Slinging the football, 3 minutes left. That's what you wanted them to do. Now, unfortunately, you got the 2 minutes left. Again, the momentum shifted there. Ravens defense started making a play. First down, they sacked Joe Burrow under 2 minutes. That kind of killed that drive. 2 straight drives, defense made some big stops for Baltimore. Bengals trying to stay aggressive. You get to overtime, first down run. Baltimore did the exact same thing. They ran the ball, pick up some yardage. They've been getting yards on the ground, first down run. Okay, 3 yards. I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that. Then you run on second and third, and that's when you start scratching heads. That's when you say, why would you get that conservative? Well, first of all, a lot of talk now. Apparently, Joe Burrow was the one that audibled on that second down to a run, so we can't blame Zach Taylor for that. Now you got third down, Ravens defense playing hot, playing well. You get sacked, you're out of field goal range. Money Mac brought this team to a Super Bowl. Bengals defense brought this team to a Super Bowl. Love Joe Burrow. You're paying him the most money in the league. Played an absolutely perfect game. At the end of the day, though, you have seen Money Mac close games out with the best of them. And you say, hey, 53-yard field goal, or Joe Burrow drop back and get sacked because of the way this Ravens defense is playing and kicks us out of field goal range. Take 53-yard field goal. I get it. Could have got a chunk play there. Could have picked up 4 or 5. Could have made it 48. At the end of the day, it didn't matter where they kicked that field goal. They could have kicked the field goal at the 2-yard line. It was a bad snap. That bad snap happens anywhere. He doesn't snap that bad. Money Mac nails it, and nobody questions the thing and says, what a game by Joe Burrow. What a call by Zach Taylor, staying aggressive all game. But how about the defense? The defense is the problem. 41 points. How do you lose a game giving up 41 points? How do you keep losing games scoring 30 plus? That's where the attention needs to be put. And then, again, we love to play. Coach's fault. Lou ain't got it anymore. Lou ain't as good as he once was. And, again, not to play devil's advocate and not to ruffle feathers up a little bit, but I don't think it's Lou's fault either. It's more Zach's fault than Lou's fault because of, the structure of this Bengals franchise. It's more Mike Brown's fault. It's all Mike Brown's fault. Oh, let me pull this back. It's obviously a combination of both because the coaching staff has so much say in who the Bengals draft. But it's your organization's responsibility to draft a good player, to scout, have a great scouting department. As much as you want to be hands-on, you can't go out there and scout every player as a coach. You can't do it. You ain't got that. You got to trust in your scouting department to draft you talented players that you can put on a football field to make a difference. That is something the Bengals have not done in the Zach Taylor era on defense. And again, now if you want to say that's the coaching fault, the coaching staff's got a lot of say in it, that's their fault. I get that. But I don't blame the personnel that the Bengals have right now and say that they should be playing better defense with it, and that's Lou's fault. No, it's not. You want to see good personnel, bad defensive coordinator? Look at Baltimore. Baltimore was the #1 scoring defense in the league last season. All they did was change a defensive coordinator, lost not a lot at all. They are now the 31st ranked pass defense in the league. That's a bad defensive coordinator. When you have that kind of low turnover, that kind of talent, again, we look at Pro Football Focus, take it as you will. The Ravens have 5 players on that defensive unit ranked inside the top 20 by Pro Football Focus. Do you know how many the Bengals got? None. Matter of fact, the Bengals have 2 players ranked inside the top 32. Think about that. 32 teams in a league. The Bengals have 2 players out of 11 starters ranked inside the top 32. hypothetically speaking, obviously there's multiple players at multiple positions. You look at that and say, man, Bengals don't have 2 starters. They don't have a team. They don't have more than 2, I guess, technically speaking. They don't have 2 number 1s. More than 2 number 1s. And the ones that they do have aren't high level. They aren't elite. You do have Trey Hendrickson, who's probably being ridiculously undergraded right now, mind you. But besides that, Trey Hendrickson and company, Geno Stone shouldn't be a starter. Von Bell shouldn't be a starter. Sam Hubbard, he's a specialty guy. He should be in there and run play. Should be in every down starter. Dax Hill, I thought he's been exceptional at CB. Shouldn't be a starter. Why? Because you drafted him to be a safety. You transitioned him to be a CB. If it works out, hey, that's great. But from a player development standpoint, from a draft standpoint, you didn't draft him to be a cornerback. That's on your organization. That's on drafting. That's Lou Anarumo trying to take a mistake by your organization in the draft and trying to make the most out of it. And he looked good. You got to give Lou all sorts of credit for that. All sorts of credit. I don't know what's happening with Jordan Battle. That's the one eyebrow raiser. I do not know what's happening with Jordan Battle. I do know he was on the field and gave him part of a couple big plays, though, when he was on the field there for a little bit last game. But there was expecting, again, just like Dax Hill, there's like go play coverage as a corner, kind of different. But what I look at here and I see is bad personnel. I see Lou Anarumo trying. It almost feels like he's helplessly trying. Like he doesn't know what to do. We've watched Lou Anarumo in the past and what he wants to do, and you watch what he's doing now. It's like you can see he's trying different. In this game against Baltimore, something we've seen a lot of was the double-A gap blitzes, right? Whether they went or they didn't go. So that's not, a big thing for Lou in the past, but they're trying to do something to disguise the defenses, to bring pressures in different ways to confuse the opposing teams' defenses, because the defense just can't drop back 8 and play coverage, or drop back 7 and play coverage and expect the front 4 to get home and play coverage, because the personnel's not there. I think Lou knows the personnel's not there. So he says, let's try to dial up the blitzes. Let's try to put pressure on the quarterback, force a mistake that way. Because if he drops back and passes, they're going to pick us apart. We just can't cover these guys. To me, that's Lou trying. I could be wrong, right? And that was what dictated the field. Was it the field goal? The field goal late in the game. Lou was again, he lined up the double-A gap blitz. He's been dropping them back in coverage. That time he brought him, Lamar had to force the bad pass. That's all they could really do, because they don't have any pass rushers. Who's pass rushing a quarterback besides Trey Hendrickson? How can you have, again, mind you, we just mentioned 3 of your 4 starting secondary players should not be starters. And now you're doing that and comboing that with a defensive front that cannot get home to the quarterback. The greatest coach in all of time couldn't work with that. That is the absolute, no secondary, no defensive line is the absolute complete recipe for disaster. And the other part, we go back to the bringing these guys in, drafting them, developing them, free agency, whatever. They don't have depth. Dax Hill goes down. Again, we said he's exceptional. Dax Hill goes down, and it gets uglier. At the beginning of this game, Bengals defense was actually playing okay. In the past game, Lamar looked kind of like he was making a lot of mistakes. And, we watched it. It was funny because first thing I thought was, wow, we was over all this talk the last couple weeks about how Lamar is better than Joe. It ain't even close. And all this, Joe Burrow getting ragdolled by the media. And I just watched it. I was like, man, Lamar's made more bad throws in his first 2 drives than Burrow's made the last 3 games. And that wasn't an exaggeration, right? And to that, and again, when Dax got hurt, unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be out for the season. Things went downhill because they just don't have the depth. They didn't draft for the depth. You can't sign when you don't draft. Finally, you get a Marius Mims, but you couldn't draft the offensive line. They did get Cordell as well as looking figured out. But you was paying all these veteran offensive linemen. You was paying these veteran defensive linemen because you had no choice. When you have to pay for your players in free agency, you cannot sustain success. Period. The NFL is not built that way. You have a salary cap. Putting all that money towards the defensive line veterans, because the thing is, free agency, you're overpaying the veterans. That's just how it works. You're paying a market value. You're overpaying for what you could get out of the draft for literally 10 million less a year because they're under the rookie contract and they're younger, whatever, better quality players. That's the problem the Bengals are running into. They were forced to constantly sign free agents. They was forced to constantly pay for this offensive line. They was forced to constantly try to plug and play guys on defense. Again, Rankins might be an overpay. You could argue that BJ Hill was an overpay. At the time, he was technically pretty much, he was your DT2, DT3. But you had to lock these guys in because they was veterans. That's all you had. And I know people want to keep Jesse Bates. It wasn't possible. It wasn't possible to keep Jesse Bates because you had to protect your franchise quarterback. There wasn't money there. Especially when you knew Joe was going to get signed. You wanted to either keep Jamar or T. There just wasn't money. There was too many things that needed to fill from free agency. Unfortunately, again, you can have a bunch of no-star players on your team and not have cap space because, again, you're forced to pay a premium on average players. And that's the dilemma. Look at the Chiefs. You know why the Chiefs won a Super Bowl last year? You don't know why the defense is so good on the Chiefs? Because they were starting rookie secondary player, rookie secondary player, rookie secondary player, rookie offensive lineman, rookie offensive lineman. They was drafting talented young players. They can afford the team they have right now because they have talented players under entry-level draft contracts. You have to have that in this league to be a complete football team. Bengals don't have that right now. Again, got Mims coming up. That's going to be a big piece moving forward. They need guys like that. They need to hit a couple guys on the draft in a big way. Jordan Battle, we thought could be that guy. Not sure what's happening there as well. Cam Taylor-Britt, we thought could be that guy. Falling to pieces is Cam Taylor-Britt lately. Again, hopefully it's just a rough patch for him. He figures it out. But you have to have those guys. That's the only way you can afford to keep your star players is if you can consistently retool in the draft and get the most out of them. But if you miss in the draft for so many years like the Bengals did, this is exactly what happens. Nonetheless, we'll see. They can turn it around. We've seen the Bengals draft in-house historically pretty well defensively, really. It was the Zach Taylor era when things started to change. And that's why we say, well, how much, we always talk about how the Bengals don't like to pay the scouting department. They like to have them more hands-on with their coaching. How much do you blame Zach Taylor for that? And how much can you really blame for your head coach not properly being a good defensive playing scout, right? Even your DC, that shouldn't be their primary job. They should say, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I want. Scout it for me and find me a list of guys, Nonetheless, love y'all's thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.